with you. It's Rock B. This is another rendition of Gang Fights, and I'm on my way to work. It's about 4 or 5 in the morning out here. On my way to get these dollars. Someone asked me, how did you become a part of the 8-Ball mob clique, gang, whatever you want to call it? And it's a kind of long story, and I'm going to try to shorten it up on my way to work for you real quick. When I first moved to Modesto, California, my cousin Little Ricky, Nick, and them, they tell me that they knew these guys that were like 12, 13, 14, little youngsters carrying guns and all this old shit, and they call themselves the 8-Ball mob, the 8-Ball youngsters. And it was some badass, and everybody was scared of them and all that old stuff. So I'm like, thinking of some far-fetched shit, because I'm thinking like youngsters carrying guns and knives and all this old shit at that age doing some wild-ass shit. It sounded far-fetched, you know, until I met these guys. But I didn't meet them until a little later. They told me we was going to go to Bayer High School. I would meet them at Bayer at high school. And so, you know, make a long story short, I met the cats and they were all that. But when I first got to Modesto, I really started kicking with these Northside cats, you know, the McDonald's and all these cats, man. And Big Kurt, Lil Kurt, Shooty, Nate, my little brother Milt, you know. I started kicking it with these cats, man. Joaquin, you know, over there off Prescott Estates and shit. Coolest motherfuckers I ever met, man. But anyway, so when I first got to Modesto, I was running with the Crips. I don't know if you guys know that. I was kind of claiming Hoover Crip. I didn't know what the hell Hoover Crip was about, but I heard of the Hoovers and shit. And when I was living in San Jose, I was running with the Crips. You know what I'm saying? I used to kind of hang out with these SOS cats, the Sons of Samoa, you know, in San Jose, California. So all I kind of knew was Crippin' and all that old type shit. And so when I got to California, you know, I had gang shit on my mind. You know what I'm saying? So quite naturally, I gravitated towards the Crip gang. And so I was going to Modesto High. Now, I had already met the 8-Ball mob guys at Bayer, and these dudes was every bit of what my cousin told me they was. When I met them, these dudes was like standoffish, looking rough, and you know, all black leather and shit and all this old shit, black leather, burner gloves. They had these pouches on that looked like gun holsters and shit. You know, it just, these dudes looked crazy, man. And I was intrigued by these guys and shit. And so I started going to Modesto High. They were from the east side. Now, the east side of Modesto, you know what I'm saying, was their territory, and they used to hang out at this pool hall called the 8-Ball Pool Hall. That's where they got their names, on the east side of Modesto. Used to be by Stop and Save between Yosemite and Riverside Road. And now it became a video store or something like that. But it used to be the 8-Ball Pool Hall right next to Stop and Save. And that's where they used to hang out at. Hearing stories about him, and I used to run into him every now and then at the mall and shit like that. And I mess with him and shit, and probably if they got into a fight every now and then, I just jump in on GP, because I knew these guys and shit like that, you know. But I wasn't part of their clique. They knew who I was and all that. They knew I was a down ass brother. And so, you know, we had a good rapport. And so fast forward, I'm at Modesto High. Now, the 8-Ball mob gang is supposed to come and fight these cats calls themselves the West Side Big Time Familiar. And what these was a younger version of this older gang called themselves the Godfathers, these Norteño Mexicans and shit. And don't know if they was Norteños in, but they were Mexicans and shit from Northern California, you know. And so when I heard the story about these guys fighting, I'm quite naturally, I'm thinking they finna get their ass handed, because I'm on the west side, and I'm thinking they don't know nothing about what they getting into, you know. So you know, I just don't know what the hell, you know. I'm not even from Modesto. I'm doing too much, really, to be honest, you know. And so when they get to the west side, now everybody hear about you know what I'm saying, 8-ball mob, you know what I'm saying, get ready to fight these dudes. Now, I'm hearing it all in the school, like, the Mexicans talking about jumping in, whooping on these niggas and all that old type shit. On my mind, I'm gonna help these cats out. Now, I knew these cats lived, they had a house on the west side also. You know what I'm saying? And so, I used to, well, I never went to their house, but I knew where their house was on the west side over there on Heron. We called it Chivas Lane by Stop and Save store down on Paradise and shit. And so, but I didn't, you know, I wasn't privy to how they really knew Modesto or how they were from Modesto. I'm thinking they from the east side, they don't know what's up. But I didn't know what's up, you know, really. And so, when I hear about these guys getting ready to fight the big timers, so I tell my partner Devastating D, my partner Big Walt, like, I'm finna help these niggas out. And so we get a message from the leader of the Crips back in the day. We get a message from the leader of the Crips like, y'all youngsters stay up out of 8-ball mob business. Because there was a few Crips that went to the school where we went to, Modesto High, that we ran with. And we get a G call, basically, from the leader, and he tells us to stay out they mix. But in my mind, I'm like, fuck that, these my homeboys. And I don't think my homeboys, Walt and D walked over there with me. And they might have, I forgot. But, so, these niggas was chilling over there at Modesto High across from the Mexico Meat Market in this little alley on the side of Modesto High in that little street. I don't know what street that is. And they was chilling in this alley, about 5 or 10 of them. They wasn't 10 of them, about 5 of them at the most. And they were looking pretty thin. They were just over there, standing over there. So lunchtime, I go over there, ask them, do they need some help? You know, I walk over there, ask them, they need some help. And on some gangster shit, you know, the leader of the clique said, hell no, we don't need no motherfucking help, nigga. This is mob, nigga. And I'm like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? These motherfuckers on some kamikaze badass shit, right? This guy like got my dick hard, not on some gay shit, but like, this niggas on some badass shit, cause they don't know these Mexicans finna come. These on like 5 of them motherfuckers and shit. I'm like, I'm tripping and shit. And so, I guess the Mexicans came from out the school and wherever they came from, and they met in the back of the Mexico Meat Market. And that's the corner store, you know, at Modesto High. If y'all don't know, they call it the Mexico Meat Market. That's the corner store. And there was an alley behind that thing. And so they met behind there. And so big crowd, and I don't know where the rest of the mob came, because when they met, all of a sudden it's probably like 10, 15 mob members and shit. And a couple of these cats I didn't even know. You know, I only know a few of them. And so I'm just checking it out, really. You know, I want to get in this shit. So my partner Griff, he squares off with Mexican Eddie from the west side. I don't know if anybody was there. They remember that. You know, squared off with Mexican Eddie, and they just started going at it, and it erupted. Bing, bing, bing. Motherfuckers started getting at it. I'm talking about kung fu fight. Motherfuckers had nunchucks, sticks, and bats, and it was going down in that alley, man. I'm talking about, I got hit in the head, but only got hit in the head because I saw I'm looking at my chance to get in, you know. So I see one of my dudes, he getting ready to get stole on, so I went and stole on the cat that was getting ready to steal on him. Somebody got me, I don't know, they hit me with something, I don't know, whatever the whatnot. So we whooped their ass up in that motherfucker. My partner Darren Bird, I remember he got hit with some nunchucks. I remember that nigga had a dimple in his motherfucking cheek. And that came from them nunchucks. Somebody got hit in the mouth with some nunchucks. A couple of cats went to the hospital. Motherfuckers got fucked up. It was a serious fight. But I gotta say this. At the end of the fight, you know, I don't know. It was hella Mexican, but we kicked their motherfucking ass and shit. Whooped their ass up in that thing, right in that alley, right? And one last motherfucking Mexican cat was standing, man. Chapo Torres, man. Chapo Torres, man. It was 5 8-ball mob members on his motherfucking head, right? Giving him the business, but he wasn't going down and shit. You know what I'm saying? They was beaking him. He beaking them back. Bink, bink, bink. He beaking them back and stay left standing. Now, they had this female that ran with the mob. Her name was Irma. She became my sister later on in the game. My homegirl Irma Torres, that was her brother. But she ran with the mob and shit. And she was like, Jeff, tell him to get him up. Pretty boy, tell him to get him off my brother. Excuse me about that. Pretty boy, tell him to get off my brother. You know, all this old crazy stuff. And so Pretty Boy goes over there. Pretty Boy's the leader of our clique. And he goes over there and he like, man, Chapo, y'all lost. Now Chapo in the middle just, you know what I'm saying, handling this business between five motherfuckers. He just handling this business. Straight up, he had a tank top on, a pompadour hairdo, giving him the business, right? And so, you know what I'm saying, Pretty Boy go over there and say, Chapo, y'all lost. It's over with. Told the dudes to get off of him and shit. Chapo dusted himself up like, I don't give a fuck. This is still big time West Side familiar. Threw up the West and walked off in the sunset, right? And it was the most gangster shit ever, man. And Chapo's been legendary ever since then. Shout out to Chapo Torre, true gangster West Side motherfucking shit. And yeah, and so after that, right, I get hit in the head, and I go to school, and I'm kind of scared, like the Crips is gonna find out that I got into the fight and all this old shit. And I'm in the classroom, nervous than a motherfucker, right? And so I just skipped class, the next class, and Modesto High was down, probably not a half a mile down the street from their house, which was Stop and Save liquor store, and about Stop and Save liquor store. So, you know what I'm saying, I cut school and dodged through some, hid behind some cars and all that old type shit, you know, just to try to be undetected and shit, because I was fearing the Crips was gonna find me, and, you know, because they always was riding around and shit. And it was gonna find me and do something to me because I helped these dudes fight and shit. And so I made it to their house undetected and shit. And knocked on the door. They peeking out the window and shit. And they peek out the window. Then they open the door. And man, they was clapping. Oh, that's what's up. You know, I'm getting praise coming in. But you know, as I'm walking in, I'm hearing like it's like machine shop, like they making weapons and all this old type shit. And I'm like, well, you know, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? He said these motherfuckers want to fight again. We finna go meet them at James Marshall. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy through fighting, right? Like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? So my boy Pretty Boy said, go in the back and make you a weapon. And so I go back in the back and put me some nails through a stick or something, I don't know. Had me some barbaric ass shit. And then the first time I had a red rag is somebody gave me a lock with a red rag tied to it, you know what I'm saying, as a weapon and shit. And told me to put this in your pocket, you know what I'm saying? You might need this. I'm like, hell no, I want that red rag. You know what I'm saying? They're like, motherfucker, we don't tripping on no colors. We don't be banging on motherfucking colors over here, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? There's war over here, man. You might need this, motherfucker. So I took the lock, you know what I'm saying? Stuffed that motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Trying to stuff that motherfucker at the bottom of my pocket, you know. And, you know, got ready to go to war. So, mind me, so we got to walk to James Marshall. Now, James Marshall probably like, I'll say, a quarter of a mile from the house and shit. So we got to walk to James Marshall to meet these cats. Now, remind me of the movie The Warriors. Just walking with rough tag looking motherfucker, a couple of motherfuckers scarred up and the whole nine, just walking to go meet these motherfuckers with sticks and brooms and all this old weird ass shit. You know what I'm saying? To go and meet these cats. So we stop over there in front of the apartments in front of Saigon. That's the Asian Crip territory, but that's the hit squad territory. We used to call it Little Saigon, the apartment 620 and shit, at the bus stop and wait on a couple of other mob members to come off. And a couple of females went across the street to Stop and Save to get some liquor and shit. So we waited, and a couple other mob members to get off the bus, waited on the bus when to get off the bus. Then we waited, and they got off, and it was Too Sweet and Hector and shit. So they got off the bus, and we continued to walk on to James Marshall. And when we got to James Marshall, now James Marshall wasn't too far from the mob hangout. So we get to James Marshall, but when we get to James Marshall, I gotta tell y'all, and I'm not exaggerating, there had to be 50 to 100 Mexicans, man. Straight up, man. Probably more than that, man, and I'm not exaggerating, man. The James Marshall Park was full of Mexicans on swings, on the slides, and then they had they OGs, the Godfather. They was like chilling in the back of Saigon apartments, and you know, they had all they low riders with their trunks up, you know what I'm saying, beat going and shit. They Pachuco get up the hats, the Pendletons, you know, the chains, the Stacey Adams shoes, just chilling, just watching the fight. This probably about 10, 15 lowriders and OGs and shit, just chilling and shit. Like, wow, I'm looking at this scene like it's looking crazy, right? So we walked to James Marshall and we sat on this bench. And so the leaders got to meet up and talk, and then we gonna get it on. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how it went. And so my boy Pretty Boy, and I thank my partner Little, and number 2 in command, because everybody had numbers as far as their number ranking in the clique, and I wasn't ranked because I wasn't part of the clique. And so they walked up to these other cats. You know what I'm saying? I remember Green Eyes Hector was one of their leaders, and Angel was one of the leaders, but Chapo wasn't there. The cat that was stayed standing, he wasn't there. And so we walked up to him, and well, Jeff told everybody to stay back on the bench, but I wasn't gonna stay back on the bench. Fuck that, because they were sitting ducks on that bench, and everybody was waiting on the fight to kick. They were setting ducks, so I was gonna walk with the crew. And my boy Pretty Boy, he was pretty mad at me walking up, and you know, behind him and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just gonna walk with him. I'm finna get it cracking, you know. And so I walked over there with him and shit, and unbeknownst to me, these motherfuckers were scared. So we walked up, they were like, man, we don't want no funk, we don't want no problem, yada, yada, yada. You know, we should be teamed up and fighting these other guys. And I'm like, relieved, okay, woo-wee, because, man, it seemed like it would have kicked off, we would have been Thuvo up in that motherfucker. We was like, outnumbered like 5-1 easy. And so, when they said that, it was cool. So, you know what I'm saying, they bowed down, and Jeff, man, I'm like, we're cool, let's go back and chill and drink our drinks and smoke our little bud. And Jeff was like, well, I'm just letting y'all know this 8-Ball Mob. If y'all ever wanted something, y'all wanted one-on-one, y'all wanted clicked up, however y'all want to do it, y'all can get it, man. This is mob. And I'm like, this nigga's crazy them up. They just gave it the pass, nigga. But, you know what I'm saying, true-ass gangster. My partner, Pretty Boy, true-ass gangster. He shots that shit at them and shit, and they still didn't want none. And I've been fucking with the 8-Ball Mob ever since. And now, a year or two later, I get jumped in. You know, because I wasn't never part of it. I never got a jacket. They had these mob jackets. I never got a jacket. But 2 years later, I get jumped in. I go to the mob hangout. And I knew something was funny. As soon as I got in the house, everybody was looking funny. And then they just jumped on me. Bang, bang, bang. I just jumped on me. Gave me the business up in that motherfucker. Swelled me up a little bit. And after they jumped me and shit, they revealed this plaque, this 8-Ball Mob plaque. My name was on that thing. And I was part of the clique. And I've been part of the 8-Ball Mob ever since. That's my story. And I know it's a little broke up, and everybody got different versions of it, man. But that's my version of it, man. And yeah, that's how I joined the 8-Ball Mob clique, man. Rock B, I got to get to work. I just made it, y'all. Bye.
Style.